Hi, I'm Angelica Logue, and I did my group leading project with group grief counseling with older adults. I conducted my group project on Sunday, April 29th around 2 p.m. Members were from the group from a church. So it was fellow congregation members. Otherwise, there was no relation or relationship with the members. We did the church. I did it in the church community room. With it was set up with a circle of chairs, and 8 signed up to do the group session. There was no co-leader with me. I did conduct this group independently. When members arrived, they were able to get coffee and a cookie, and then have a seat and kind of just get comfortable with the area. Again, this is a support group for older adults dealing with grief and loss of a loved one. It was voluntary. So when members arrived, I did have a table sitting with some information that members could use after the session. The first one was coping with loss one step at a time. The next one was grief support for older adults. It was, again, just geared more specifically towards older adults 60 and over. And then I also had tips for bringing more laughter to life. I thought it was a good resource to provide that they could use, after the session. The purpose of the group was so that members who were dealing with loss could have a sense of not feeling alone and isolated, which is often common. I introduced myself. I spoke briefly about the purpose and the goals of the group, and also the rules of the group. I spoke about confidentiality, just stating that members should keep what was in the group session confidential. However, with any group, that's not always possible. I conducted an introduction exercise where I asked members to look around the room for about a minute and just kind of get comfortable with their surrounding and those who were involved in the group. The introduction was calm, and each member introduced themselves and shared expectations of the group. A majority reported wanting to have a feeling of less isolation about the loss that they were experiencing, and to feel they weren't alone in the loss, which again was the purpose of the group. There was one member who seemed a little less open to share what they had experienced. I think maybe their expectation was just to see how others compared to their situation before they opened up. I mentioned that being uncomfortable and anxious about sharing is common among members. That way members who were feeling like that didn't feel like they, were feeling this alone. I did conduct a sentence completion exercise, and it was the hardest thing about losing my loved one or friend, whoever it might have been, and then I had them complete the sentence. I think members did really well with this exercise, and everyone was willing to, complete the activity and participate. I did notice heads nodding around the room, which as a leader is definitely a skill you want to possess. I think that, so each member, when I saw heads nodding, it was when each member was sharing what their hardest thing was about the loss, so there were definitely common difficulties. After about an hour, I began to close the group up, just to allow for one last exercise and for members to be able to share how the first session was for them. Most members had positive feedback. There were 2 that said they did not feel, one way or the other or really differently about how they were dealing with their grief and loss. So then, after I got feedback from the group, I did re-summarize the goal of the group and spoke about future sessions that would take place. Self-assessment, I think that overall, for it being my first group grief support counseling session, I think that I did okay. I think it went really well. I'd probably have a professional there next time, just because I'm not fully experienced in leading a group. I did let the members know, this was for a class, so I think they were really understanding of that as well and took that into account. I would have liked to be able to cut members off more effectively. I think a lot of times when the members were speaking, and sometimes not even just with older adults, but with anyone, you start bringing up emotions, and the conversation can kind of carry and get taken off in different directions. I thought it was really difficult in a grief group counseling setting to cut members off. I definitely had feelings of I was going to make them feel one way or the other about, I didn't want to hear what they had to say, or I wasn't sympathetic to their situation. And then a big challenge were the members who kind of stated that they didn't feel any differently when I had asked how the experience was for them. I didn't really know how to react. I apologized and told them that I hope they would continue to come to the next sessions in order to see if this was a feeling that could be changed for them, and to allow them to get a better feel for the group. In conclusion, my highlights were it was positive interaction with the members, and most members were, interactive and provided some positive feedback, which I appreciated. In the future, I would be more prepared to handle the situation of the negative feedback from members. And then for future group leadership, I will be sure to be more comfortable in leading the group. Definitely comfort was a big issue for me, this being the first time with this particular setting, and I definitely felt anxious. A closing thought that I also left the group with was from Matthew 11. Christ gives peace and rest to all who come to him in faith. Thank you.